Welcome to week 10. Hope everything's going good. Hope you had a good time at your residency. It was great seeing you and meeting you all. Access control in the enterprise system. So what we're going to look at today is how all this comes together and how we're going to review some of the stuff we reviewed over the last few weeks. Access control lists, access control entries, some authentication, how we're going to be doing that. We're going to look at single sign-on to make it easier for users to get into their systems and applications. We're also going to be looking at the OSI model, how layer 2 and 3 work together. So we're going to start with access control lists and entries. We covered that back a couple chapters ago. And basically, it's just what does the users have access. It's at the file level or directory level. And you give access to the users, and they're only going to be able to either read the information, delete information, or write, or whatever, or have different access controls. So we're going to be looking at that in this chapter. And we're going to be looking at some of the different things, authentication. Something, the three basic things, something you know, something you have, or something you are. So something you know, your login and password. You have that, you can just log in. It's whatever most people use. Something you have, you can have a token, a credit card device, smart card that you have to have some kind of reader for. This just increases the layer of security. Or something you are, biometrics, fingerprints, retina, voice recognition. These are some of the different things that are used. Each level is a lot more, has a different strength of security on it. We're also going to look at the different types of rejection that you can have. Cabrosos. Basically, how do we put out basic text, and how do we secure that? It just allows us to prevent plain text from being sent out over the network, centralizes user names, it removes vulnerabilities. These are just some of the things we're going to be looking at. And just like we discussed in our last thing, there's different types of attacks. You can have a brute force attack, key storage attack, clock centralized. So there's different things that we need to keep in mind when we're working with networks that we didn't have to worry about. We're going to look at the MAC address. MAC address is set up by IEEE, and what that does is it sits in the layer 2, the data link, and that kind of controls the data that we can get in and out of our system. So MAC address is an extremely important part. It deals with the NIC card. Every NIC card has a unique MAC address. The MAC address consists of the vendor and then a serial number. There's only one in the world. So if your desktop has a hardwire and a wireless, well, you have two different MAC addresses, just like you have two different NIC cards. Your cell phone will have a MAC address. So this identifies you to the only person in the world with that. And it allows people, it helps track back to where you are. We're going to look at how IEEE, the 802 Wi-Fi standard, 802.11, and how that works with internet security, and how we have to have identification, confidentiality, and authorization, and how that all comes together. We're going to look at single sign-on. What is that purpose of it? Why do we care about single sign-on? Well, if we have 5 or 6 applications that our users have to get into, well, having them have a different login and password for each one can be very cumbersome and annoying. And so we want to make it easier for the users. But also, it allows the enterprise or the company to control the passwords, to make sure that they all follow the same rate, the same system. Like you have to have you have to have uppercase, lowercase, a number. You got to have some type of non-standard character. And if we don't have single sign-on, we don't know that that policy is being followed. But this allows us to follow that. We're also going to look at some best practices and how we can put this into place. So we're going to be looking at that. So this week, week 10, we're going to be looking at the different things that we're going to be working on. So you're going to have your reading assignment week 10. You're going to have your discussion questions. One discussion question, your weekly journal. You're having another test. This is going to cover chapters. Yeah, I have to look at that because that's the wrong chapters. It should be 6 through 11. 6 through 10 is what it should be. I'll fix that. So take a look at, you have the PowerPoint I'm going to be putting up. You have the week in the review from Chapter 9. The PowerPoint slides, my presentation will be up there. Your assignments this week, as I said, you're going to have, didn't show up when I go this way. Let's see, we're in week 10. Your assignment, what are the authentication factors and what are some of the risks associated with them? That's your discussion question. Your weekly journal, what did you learn this week? And your test is going to cover chapters 6 through 10. So we do not have a paper this week. So, thank you again. And remember, what made you smile?